This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Welcome back. Your questions on the coronavirus. We're joined now by Dr. Om Lakhani, also by Dr. Jay Kodia and Dr. S.M. Ashraf, three leading doctors from different states, Uttar Pradesh, from Udaipur, and from Ahmedabad in Gujarat as well. But first, let me go across to Dr. S.M. Ashraf as we wait for our first caller. Dr. Ashraf, is there hope in suggestions that the transfer of plasma from those patients who've recovered from COVID-19 to those who are suffering might actually be some sort of a cure? Do you believe that there is hope in that, or is it too premature?
Actually, if I start with that, those patients suffered very severe disease from the COVID-19. If the titer of immunoglobulin more than 4 times has a role. Otherwise, even mild infection, those who recovered from the mild or moderate infection, the role is less because the antibody titer may very less. If you see total COVID patient, the immunoglobulin status, if we are taking the immunoglobulin G, the IgG starts appear after 14 days and it will sustain your body. And that immunoglobulin status, whether it is high titer or low titer, depends on the severity of the infection. If the patient had severe infection, is give more help to those patients have disease. Otherwise, not all COVID patient can give the plasma.
Right. Now that's fascinating. Absolutely, that the plasma only from select COVID patients would be more effective than others. Let's take our first question. Liaquat Ali from Srinagar. Go ahead, Liaquat.
Good evening, sir. Hello.
Go ahead with your question.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि सर मेरी फैमिली लास्ट टाइम उम्रा पे गई थी सऊदी अरब
जी,
तो वापस वो 16th ऑफ मार्च में आए हैं, 16 मार्च को
जी,
तो 18 मार्च को एक पेशेंट उसमें पॉजिटिव आ गया और हमने उसी टाइम उनको अलग रूम दे दिया क्वारंटाइन के लिए। उसके कुछ 2 दिन बाद गवर्नमेंट अथॉरिटी ने उनको क्वारंटाइन ले लिया अपने मतलब अंदर, तो वो क्वारंटाइन के लिए चले गए। तब से 20 दिन हो गए, टोटल मिला के सर 25 दिन हो गए उनको। सर कोई सिम्टम ऐसा नहीं, अभी वो ठीक है, सारी फैमिली ठीक है। पर उसी फ्लाइट में आधे पेशेंट 10 दिन के बाद पॉजिटिव आते हैं, आधे 20 दिन के बाद।
पर एक चीज बताइए, कितने टेस्ट हो चुके हैं उन पे? कितने टेस्ट हो चुके हैं 14 दिन के बाद?
नॉर्मल है उनका कोई टेस्ट, वो नॉर्मल है, वो क्वारंटाइन पे थे 14 दिन, उनके बाद और 4-5 दिन फिर क्वारंटाइन पे रहे। टोटल
तो आपका सवाल क्या है?
सर सवाल ये है कि अभी भी कोई एहतियात करना है, क्या हम बच्चों को मिल सकते हैं, वो हमें नहीं मिल पा रहे।
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not sure anybody here would be able to answer that question, but let me put that across to Dr. Ashraf in a slightly different way. How does a patient or a person who is in quarantine, who may be asymptomatic or who may not have it at all, what is the process of them moving away from quarantine, or if they do have COVID-19, what is the process of them being reintegrated with their families?
For example, suppose if you take a patient and the COVID patient, those who majority 30% of the patients are asymptomatic. The viremia and the infectivity chance is there. So when compared to the original SARS, the pre-infectious period, they can transmit the disease. So even patient is asymptomatic, he can transmit the disease to others. So those who are already in contact with the COVID positive patients still have a chance. Another patient scenario, but how long they can make transmission? That is up to even for 2 weeks. For example, one patient has disease, COVID-19 positive and moderate disease. They can shed the virus to others almost even for 3rd week also, or 2nd and 3rd week. So depends on the severity, the infectivity period is maybe longer. So very asymptomatic patient, there is a chance even 1 to 2 weeks, and that's why the community spread is very difficult. When the asymptomatic patient, you can't trace that patient.
Right.
And when the peak of the viremia peak is usually when compared to the flu and the other SARS, the COVID, the viremia near to the infectious type, they are not actually just before the infection, at the last 48 hours after getting the infection is having more viremia.
Okay. Liv, you've got another caller, Bhaskar from Chennai. Go ahead, Bhaskar. And I'd ask Dr. Jay Cordia to take this question. So, Bhaskar, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, hi. So this is a specific question regarding how COVID enters into your body and how your body tries to fight it back. So now we say that there is a specific new virus in which, the body finds it difficult to fight back when it enters and spreads into your body. So what if someone already has a viral infection and the body is fighting it with proper antibodies and COVID enters at that point in time wherein it has not spread much into your body? So will that be an effective way? Will the body be able to fight back in that case, or it is still the same only?
Okay. Would you like to take that, Dr. Cordia?
Yes. So the very important thing is that I probably think that he has asked me that whether the coronavirus, once it enters into your body and you have certain antibodies in your circulation, so whether you will be prevented from that infection or that the immunity part would be helpful for that or not. So the simple thing is, coronavirus definitely develops certain immunity system in you, but it is a long time that the immunity will work because we don't have any vaccine, anything pertaining to that. So once it enters into your body, definitely your immune system will help you to cope with it. If you have certain comorbidities associated, then it would be more difficult. And if patient is developing more complications, say lung infections and further deterioration, then it is more difficult.
Okay.
So the first step would be, first, boost your immune system. Second, social distancing prevention is the main core or the theme behind the coronavirus prevention. But definitely don't judge that if you are certainly having good immunity or your antibodies level might be high. Say being an Indian, there's a huge phobia around that we are Indian, so we don't have more coronavirus risk. But it is not true. So the very important thing is your immune system is same for any virus. So you have to be better protected via social distancing, via preventive measures, via hand washing.
Right. Okay. Calvin from West Bengal, go ahead with your question.
Yeah. Good evening, doctors. Good evening, Vishnu. Hello.
Yeah, can you go ahead with your question?
Yeah, my question is, past 2 weeks, I've been having the sore throat, and I am going to office every alternative day. So should I be concerned about that?
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's try and get Dr. Ashraf to answer that. A sore throat is what he has. He goes to office every alternate day. Should he stop going to office?
So then we had to differentiate between the flu versus common cold versus the COVID. So sore throat, many of the time it will be sometimes in the COVID, but very common in our common cold, and flu also very less. So the another thing is, do you have a dry cough? Majority of the 80 to 90% patients with the cough, COVID will have a cough, dry cough. And does he has a cough, dry cough? And second, whether sudden loss of smell or taste is another clue. And major clue is whether there is breathlessness. Even majority of the patient, 30 to 40% patient will comes with the breathlessness, dyspnea for the COVID. And even they are not breathless, then take a saturation of the oxygen. And many of them, even though they are asymptomatic, the saturation will be almost less than 90. Normal saturation is more than 95. And this is another clue. So you have a breathlessness, do you have a dry cough, and do you have a sudden loss of smell, and myalgia, and even GI symptom like diarrhea in 5 to 10%. So these are all in this scenario. This is the scenario you can have common cold and the flu and COVID coexist this season.
Okay.
So every patient with a sore throat, we have a suspicion. Now is in a pandemic. We don't know how it behave rather than epidemic. So any patient with sore throat with some slight feverishness, always check for at least for the feverishness and check for the COVID status. If especially in our Indian scenario.
Right. Let's take another question. We've got Krishna from Hyderabad. Krishna, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, okay, hi. My question is, since coronavirus is contagious, can rain spread coronavirus as well?
All right. Can rain spread coronavirus? Dr. Cordia.
Yes. If you see
it is not a water-dependent virus, basically. It's not like that rain will. It is basically an airborne virus. So it comes in the air via your cough, via your sneeze, and it remains as a droplet. It is if you are close to the patient who is sneezing, definitely you will catch. it is basically a droplet because it's a huge size virus. The thing is that as soon as you sneeze, the droplet comes out and it settles on the surfaces. So it spread more via surfaces. I don't think that via rain it will wash out, or it is because of the rain.
Okay.
So looking back our flu, the Spanish flu in 1918-19, in fact, we expect during the winter time, but it was in the summer time. So in a pandemic, it is not follow the usual seasonal variation. It is completely different. Whereas in endemic and that scenario, we can always predict whether winter or rainy season. Pandemic, nothing. It has absolutely no role with the seasonal variation.
Okay, so rain doesn't affect it. Point taken. One sec, let's get in more questions. Rahul from Telangana, go ahead.
Hello, good evening, sir. My question is,
yes,
why are medical workers getting sick with or dying from coronavirus if they are wearing protective gear?
That's such a, who would like to take that? Dr. Cordia, would you like to take that? Why are doctors falling unwell, medical staff falling unwell if they are wearing protective gear?
So the very important thing is basically the protection part. On the protection part, definitely medical persons, healthcare workers need protective gears. Definitely we talk about the mask. A simple mask can prevent it's for public interest, simple mask may be helpful, but for the healthcare worker who are working in COVID positive wards, who are working with those persons who are exposed to those scenarios, I think we should have protective gears in the form of N95 mask, protective gears, protective equipments, because you will never be in hospital for 24 hours. After 12 hours of your duty, you will come back to home. So you have to be having those gears which may be safe to keep you in your environment where you're working. And when you come back to home, you are safe on that part also.
Okay. We're also joined by Dr. Om Lakhani at this stage. Dr. Lakhani, can you share some detail, Dr. Lakhani, on the quality of the PPE that doctors are typically given? Is it a consistent standard of personal protective equipment? Are there variations in the standard? Is that a cause of concern?
Okay, thank you for that question. I think it's a very important thing to realize that, and I would like to show my solidarity to resident doctors. Now, some of you may not be aware who resident doctors are. Resident doctors are the front line. They are frontline soldiers in the fight against coronavirus. And they are the ones who need the best protective equipment. And, it was not long ago before when I was a resident and there used to be a swine flu epidemic. And, you had to wear the entire, protective gear. And, for some of them, because there is lack of adequate protective gear, these poor, 25-year-old, 26-year-old boys and girls have to stay in that for the whole 12 hours. And, they may not be able to use their bathrooms, they may not be able to use, for 12 hours. So there is a cause of concern. And the quality is not consistent across the country. So I think, for people who are listening, I think there should be a strong call to have better protective gear. You are not going to send your soldiers to a battle without good quality equipment. The same way, don't send your 25, 26-year-old young resident doctors to fight the coronavirus without good quality protective gear. I think that is the key message which should come.
Okay, we've got a question from Balwant in Chennai. Balwant, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead with your question. You're on air.
Hello.
Go ahead.
I'm speaking.
Yes, please.
My name is Balwant. I'm speaking. Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you fine. Ask your question.
I'm calling from Chennai. Hello.
All right, we'll come back to him in a moment from now. I think he's got his telephone on in the background, so he needs to switch that off, his television, before we can actually take that. But let me go back to, sorry? All right, we've got another caller, Krishnan from Bengaluru. Krishnan, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening to the panel. Actually, I have a question. So my wife had a major surgeries like uterus removal and ovaries removal some 3 years back. Then post that again there was a 1 kidney removal. So now she's still having some ailments, but at a time sometimes she has this breathlessness is there, and she also has a little there is little sore throat.
Okay.
So, but there is no temperature assess, nothing is done, no cold, nothing.
Okay.
So, but still you recommend us to go for a test for the COVID?
So that's an interesting point. Dr. Ashraf, would you like to take it? Here is a patient, this gentleman's wife, who's had a major surgery in the past, kidney and uterus, which has been removed. She has a bit of symptoms of cough and cold, so he's worried. What does he do?
So basically, answer that question. Those who already undergone surgery before is not an issue at all, because the risk of infection to these sort of patients, like immunocompromised or those who are already undergone surgery, risk is similar, just like in other general population.
Yeah.
So now the question is, suppose if she gets infection, whether there is any aggressive morbidity status, nothing, because she is not hypertensive, she is not diabetic, she is not heart patient. So just a nephrectomy and hysterectomy is not a risk factor. Now coming back to sore throat, we already mentioned. Now just I want to add one question already discussed here, the doctor's point, because if it's doctor's point and infection rate, this alarming situation, because our center also a COVID center, very high risk, because if you take the total population, almost 10 to 14% of certain tertiary hospitals are health workers. Why it is so? Because the viremia load is very high in area where the doctors are nursing the very high risk patient. For example, intubated and ventilated patient, during CPR. These are the risk factors.
Okay.
So now regarding the use of the mask, we already discussed. There are specific guidelines for that. Those who are dealing with the ICU patient, definitely the PPE kit is needed, and also N95 mask. But general ward, only surgical mask is enough. If you go out, again surgical mask, or you have a cloth mask. If you have a cloth mask, you are not protecting against bacterial virus, but you are protecting further spread to the others. At least it's reducing the incidence or prevalence.
Okay, Dr. Ashraf, I just want to quickly, since we're running out of time, take one more question. Manish from Mumbai, go ahead.
Yeah, hello. My question is about the infectivity of the virus. We tend to look at the number of infections per se. But if you look at the data of the number of tests done to the number of infections, for example, if we have done 1.3 lakh tests and the infection is about 6,000 odd, that's about less than 5%. Whereas if we look at the data from US, the ratio of the total number of tests done to the total number of positive cases, it's actually around between 15 to 20%. Now, does this tell some story about the infectivity in India? Yes, we do say that maybe...
Okay, so I get the point that you're trying to make. I'll ask Dr. Kodia to take it. How infectious is COVID-19 in India? Is there any variation in how infectious it is between India and, say, other parts of the world?
So COVID-19, when we talk about the fatality part or the risk part, basically, definitely it's a more virulent virus. It spreads rapidly. But the good thing is that if you have a natural immune system which is perfectly okay, then you might be, so that means 80% or around 85% of the patients who are having COVID positive also, they run away via symptomatic, mild asymptomatic or partially symptomatic cases. Only 5 to 10% of patients who have severe comorbidities in the form of diabetes, in the form of hypertension, coronary artery disease, age factors, which are certain risk factors for more severe COVID infections. Okay. They are more at risk. So once we talk about the mortality part, I don't think we need to be more thinking that as soon as we catch up COVID, we will die.
Okay.
So this is the biggest phobia in society, that once you are corona positive, you will be isolated. One. Second, you will definitely die.
Okay.
So this phobia should be cleared via this network which we are talking about as a whole in India, that corona definitely is a virulent virus, it spreads rapidly, but it is not so virulent that it will make you die. So very important thing is you just keep yourself safe, do regular exercises, take a proper diet when you are locked down, when you are having a lockdown at your home in the India part itself, and definitely better maintain your immune system.
Okay. Balwant from Chennai, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, I am an asthmatic patient. Actually, I take medicines regularly. I had gone to my family doctor. He gave me 2 tablets of 20 H2C, 20 mg. I took both of them without telling me. He gave me, he prescribed on his prescription, and I have lost my left eye completely by eyesight, and right eye I have very bad effect. It's past 3 days it has happened. I want your answer, please.
No, but sir, what is your question on COVID? Do you have a question on COVID-19? All right, that question was not on COVID-19, a serious question, but I don't think that's one that we can answer on this particular program. Well, we're going to completely run out of time on this particular program. We continue to take lots of questions and answers several times a day. We've tried to do many of those here as well. Our focus is on the coronavirus. We'll take a short break. More coming up.